Welcome everyone back to a weekly weather update, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest on the live radar. We'll then run through the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. We're starting this week pretty warm, but we're going to be ending it a lot colder with a proper chilly autumnal air mass pushing in from the north, about 15 degrees at 850 HPA temperature difference between the start of this week and the end of this week. So later this week you may be needing your coats and your jumpers back out, as those temperatures in the day not going to be exceptionally cold, but they will be chilly, around the mid to maybe low teens, maybe 16, 17 degrees at max in the far south, but with a bit of a hint of a chill to the air. And then overnight those temperatures will drop away quite considerably. So if you are out in the late in the night or up early in the mornings, then you're going to really feel it. With some areas could even be seeing a ground frost come Friday night or Saturday night. We'll then have a look at the mid to long range, look at the GFS, GM, ECMWF and the Ensembles, as it's highly likely as the northerly wind pushes through and the high pressure system causing this northerly wind topples, we do actually see a big high pressure system develop over the top of us for a period of time. How long it sits over the top of us, very uncertain. Maybe a couple of days or maybe 5 or 6 days, depends on models which models we are looking at today. It is in the sort of 5 to 10 day time frame, so it is still subject to some uncertainty, and we'll see what is happening today. It could be quite a cold high pressure system, but actually could slowly develop into a warm high pressure system, because initially it does start in this chilly northerly air mass, but by around day 10 or at least day 7 to day 10 it could develop a warmer upper air temperatures. So we'll have to see exactly what happens with that today. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link is in the description. Now you can see across the south on the live radar at the moment we do have a stalling weather front. Elsewhere it's really dry, not too bad. Yes, chillier air mass starting to push in from the north, with the coldest air arriving in the next day or two. But in the south, we're still holding on to those muggy conditions. We have a weather front pushing in. Now, this is initially just light to moderate precipitation, and it shouldn't really head much further northwards than where it is at the moment. But as it does just sit over the south, over the course of this afternoon and evening, we could see a few heavy thunderstorms breaking out across northern France and the Channel, maybe pushing into the far south along the south coast. So we'll have to see what happens with that, but I'm not expecting the northern extent of this rain band to go much further northwards in southern parts of Wales, the sort of M4 line, maybe in towards central London, but not too much further north than sort of the M25 there, and yeah, not much further north really than this at all. So yeah, it does look like it is spreading in, but it is going to stall and just sit where it is really over the course of the next sort of 6 hours or so, all the way through the afternoon in towards the evening. Now I'm recording this around the mid to late morning, only because those temperatures are not too exceptional today, but in the far south we still have some light oranges developing there, as we still have relatively warm upper air temperatures, so we could still see a 21, maybe 22 today. Elsewhere we could be seeing maybe high teens, maybe touching on 19, 20 degrees. So do go over to the UKV and have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. You can see that weather band pushing into the south over the course of today, and you can see it hardly nudges further northwards than what we're seeing on the live radar at the moment. Yes, the cloud extent does push northwards, but the actual precipitation at 5 p.m, look at it there, hardly further northwards than where it is at the moment, at the sort of the M4 line, maybe London line there. It does maybe nudge slightly further northwards with intensity around the late evening, and that's when we could see some heavy thundery showers. You can see those reds there across the Channel, potentially pushing into the far south, but they could equally stay offshore. The risk there really isn't too high, so we're not really going to be having a look at any shorter range models for this, as it's not really that impactful at this stage. Just some moderate rain looking likely today. As that weather front eventually does cease, we still have a few showers and some thick cloud along the far south coast tomorrow, but elsewhere it should turn a lot drier, and we could start to see a northerly flow pushing in. You see a few showers, some drier air pushing in from the north, and you can see later through Wednesday in towards Thursday we start to develop that northerly wind properly, and you can see that we can start to see those showers heading in from the north to the northwest, and yes, there will be showers around in the north, but it should still be largely dry later this week. Again, we're going to see those typical northerly wind showers along the east coast, northeast England, East Anglia, western parts of Wales and southwest England, and generally Northern Ireland and Scotland. North-facing coast really going to be seeing everything here, and you can even see a few hints of some snow perhaps over the far highest points of the Scottish mountains by Friday. You can see because the snow index here has shown up, the snow legend there. So yeah, interesting seeing that. Again, nothing substantial at all. Most areas will still be in double digits in the day, but over the highest peaks we could get towards freezing at times. Maybe even in the day at times. And you can see a few showers inland through Friday, but nothing substantial really. Just going to be a generally showery and chilly sort of outlook. Now, the reason for that is if we put the upper air temperatures on, you can see, look at that, around -1, -2 degrees at 850 HPA in the north, and widely getting towards freezing, maybe below that, maybe down to -1 in many areas by sort of Thursday, Friday, Saturday time. So yeah, not an exceptionally cold air mass, but a chilly cold air mass for this time of year. And if we put on the max temperatures, you can see, if you run to this afternoon, you can see those temperatures perhaps getting up as high as maybe 20 degrees. In the showers, maybe only 16, 17 in the south, and widely high teens, maybe touching us at 20 degrees across central England. As we head through to tomorrow, you'll be able to see that those temperatures once again rise in around that high teens, maybe low 20s mark. Again, yeah, you see that around 20, 21 degrees. Does look like the weather outlook is loading very slowly today, unfortunately, but it is here, and you can see 22 degrees perhaps tomorrow. So yeah, still a reasonably warm day. But as we head towards Thursday, that's when we will start to see a change, especially further northwards. And again, if we get this to load, you can see by the early hours of Thursday, much chillier in the northwards, but 16 degrees still in London. And head towards the afternoon, and you can see 20 degrees across the far south, but mid-teens, maybe low teens, or even high single digits across Scotland. And overnight, look at that, starting to really drop away in the north, mid to low single digits. Yes, still mid-teens in London, but as we head towards Friday afternoon, much chillier, widely mid to low teens for the northern half of the country. Yes, still maybe 16, 17, 18 in the south, but it will be a little bit more nippy. And overnight Friday, look at those temperatures starting to really drop away. So by 6 a.m. on Saturday, widely mid single digits. Many areas perhaps dropping lower than that, below 5 degrees, and some here showing around freezing or 1 or 2 degrees. So very cold night there, Friday night. And in the day, look at those temperatures not rising too much until mid-teens, low teens in the north, maybe touching on towards 16, 17 in the south, but still feeling a bit nippy, feeling colder than that. And again, you head towards Saturday night, those temperatures falling away still, mid-single digits, perhaps not quite as cold, bit more cloud around perhaps, but still chilly, 5 to 10 degrees widely, perhaps even lower than that in a few places. So if we do now have a look at the GFS, see what that is showing today for the pressure charts. Again, you can see that northerly wind starting to form later this week, pushing through, real chill to the air, but that high pressure system that's pushing that northerly wind in topples, and look at that, we stay under a big high pressure system. Now initially, look at those upper air temperatures, they are cold, especially in the south and the east, where we've had that northerly flow, but later next week, we do see warmer air masses return. So it could turn from a cold to a warm high pressure system in terms of a conversion towards warmer conditions, but we'll have to see nearer the time what the short range models do. No real point looking at the 2 meter temperatures for this, just because it is very, very uncertain. And again, all depends on very sort of small surface details like dew points, cloud cover, things like that, which we won't be able to decipher until nearer the time. Beyond that, though, a westerly flow does start to try to develop, and you can see again showers and low pressure systems pushing in from the west could bring warmer air at times, but also very unsettled air. Could see some very chilly air masses pushing through up behind cold fronts. So it could be a classic westerly theme with it sort of alternating between colder and warmer air masses. That would be quite unsettled, but we would see equally some warm weather, some cold weather, just typical autumnal conditions. So yeah, a real variety of weather over the next week or two. Warm at the moment, turning colder, chillier, a hint of late autumn, maybe even early winter later this week with some chilly northerly winds and a bit of a ground frost in places, and then turning higher pressure again, drier, warmer, sort of like spring-like conditions, probably still chilly in the mornings, but in the day it should be nice, and then potentially some stormy autumnal conditions pushing through later in the run. So yeah, a wide range of conditions today. Now, if we do run through the GM, see what that is showing. Again, we do have that northerly wind pushing in later this week, turning things quite chilly. The high pressure system eventually does topple, and we stay under the high pressure system for a good few days before eventually westerly conditions do push through around day 10. But that's in well over a week's time, and again in the unreliable time frame. And you can see from those upper air conditions, initially under that high pressure system, we are in a chilly air mass early next week. But beyond that, we do develop a warm air mass, so it should turn a little bit better. And again, we can see that very well by looking at the temperature deviations. Initially blues, developing more into oranges and yellows there. So yeah, changing between a colder than average air mass into a warmer than average air mass. So if we do finish by having a look at the ECMWF, see what that is showing. Again, a northerly wind developing later this week. Quite a potent northerly wind there. Look at those upper air temperatures. Really quite chilly, freezing at HVA. You'd imagine in a couple of months' time, these upper air temperatures will be around 10 degrees colder. So -5 line pushing through here would probably be the -15 line if this was in the middle of December into January, February time. So this is a potent northerly wind just coming at the time of year where the air to our north isn't too cold. Now beyond that, you do see eventually we stay in the colder air, but high pressure does topple. But early next week we are initially in colder air, but then warmer air does develop over the top of us. But we don't see a lot of high pressure here before low pressure does tumble back in. So this is why I said at the start of the video, we do have a lot of uncertainty with how long we have that high pressure over the top of us. It does look likely it will develop, but whether it's a day or two here from the east and the F, or 5-6 days like the GFS and GM perhaps are hinting at, is yet to be determined. But this is definitely going more unsettled and stormy, more unsettled and potentially stormy, because you see big low pressure systems developing to the south of Greenland. Those would be heading our way, powering up the jet stream. Again, this is not a crazy stormy pattern, but it would be a generally very unsettled, perhaps introducing stronger winds, also autumnal winds, a lot of alternating periods of heavy rain and drier weather, a lot of showers around. Again, it's going to come because it is autumn. We always see these sort of conditions every year, but I know a lot of people probably would like September to hang on to those sort of late summer conditions a little bit longer, but perhaps this is the start of those proper flip to more real autumnal conditions. But we'll have to see. All depends on how long that high pressure does hold. If you finish by having a look at the ensembles, now you can see the GFS definitely favouring higher pressure in the medium to longer range, all the way up to day 10. Very warm air mass at the moment, 15 degrees at HVA, and you can see a 15-degree drop down to freezing at HVA within 3 or 4 days' time. A bit of precipitation perhaps over the next day or so with those showers and maybe thunderstorms pushing up from the south. Again, uncertain how far northwards that precipitation does get, but it could push as far north as London, but much further northwards than that, it is very uncertain. Beyond that, we do see those temperatures slowly recover under that higher pressure system, eventually returning to around average in around a week's time. Maybe going slightly above average beyond that, but we are in a period of below average temperatures for maybe 4 or 5 days, and it is very dry, very minimal precipitation here. So the ECMWF run definitely is more of an outlier, pushing that precipitation and low pressure in after only a couple of days. Longer term, still doesn't look like a massive precipitation signal, but the upper air temperatures are around average, and we'll just have to see what happens with that. If you do look at the ECMWF ensembles, you can see the operational run there does spike up a good 2 days earlier than the other runs there with the thicker green line. You can see in the long term that there are plenty of ensemble members that do bring in more precipitation, so perhaps a signal for that more unsettled, stormy-ish weather towards the second, or essentially the last third of the month, really. But yeah, still a lot of uncertainty within these ensemble members, and again, not all ensemble members are going for any specific scenario, so still a lot of uncertainty, as I said, outside of even day 8, day 9, day 10. So I'll have to see exactly what happens, but for the time being, it's still warm, showers around in the south, but turning a lot colder later this week with a lot more chillier weather around, potentially with the ground frost maybe on Friday night or Saturday night. So do take the care out there, and do of course dress appropriately if you are out early in the morning or late at night, as it can and probably will be really quite nippy out there when you do go out. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.